Good afternoon. My name is Caleb with Deblen, the tree doctor. Today we're actually going to talk about turf or your lawn. We also have a company called Deblen, the turf doctor. The reason we've done that is because as tree doctors we realize that one of the constant stresses in a tree's life up here in Minnesota that we observe are chemicals applied to the grass above where the tree's roots are. And most people don't know that this is a problem for the trees. So we're going to talk about it. We address this with our turf program, but also it's necessary for people to know these things, because if they don't, they're just going to go on using these chemicals that are terrible for their trees. So let's talk about it. So why is it important to keep your lawns healthy and in turn keep your trees healthy? A healthy lawn means it has a healthy topsoil. And that topsoil is loaded with good things. So we've got earthworms, we've got all kinds of good, positive microbes. We've got different bacterias. We've got natural aeration from these little bugs moving around under the soil, earthworms moving around under the soil, even birds going in after the bugs. That is a natural form of aeration for the soil. And the reason this is so important is because if you take all of that away, if you take it all away, what you're left with is a hard, compacted dirt, not soil. So I want to say there's dirt and there's soil. The soil is important. The dirt is a problem because dirt has no life in it. So we're going to talk about the importance of soil in your yard under your grass. When your soil is healthy, your grass is actually healthier too, because a healthy grass plant puts out lots of strong roots that go straight down into that soft, living soil. And this does a couple of things for your grass. This allows your grass to be resilient when there's issues. So a big issue that we see in Minnesota is the irrigation system shuts off accidentally. So you've got this wonderful, intricate irrigation system in your yard, and all of a sudden half of the zones stop working for some reason. Maybe the little computer board or whatever that runs it stops functioning, or the whole thing stops functioning, or you leave on vacation and you forget to turn on the water valve that goes from the lake pump up to the sprinkler system. So even the computer in the house is still thinking that it's running the zones, but there's no water coming in from the lake. That's happened at one of our clients' lake homes this summer. So I'm using it as an example. It's real life. If you have resilient grass, if you have healthy soil, all the grass is going to do is go into dormancy. So it's going to look dead. It's going to be brown above ground or very patchy or not real healthy looking. But the roots are still alive because they are healthy. They are being taken care of by this wonderful soil that is healthy underneath of the grass plant in the roots. Okay, so that's one benefit. The other benefit is if you have healthy soil, your grass roots continue to thicken over time. They never stop, because a plant wants to build roots all the time. That's its job to survive, is to make a root. So if the soil is healthy, that is a happy environment for that grass plant to make more roots. Especially if it's getting irrigated, that's wonderful, because it's constantly getting moisture, it's photosynthesizing, it's eating the carbon out of the air, it's making new roots and adding to the microbiome. So that's wonderful. Now let's flip the script and explain what's happening in a yard that is chemically fertilized. So all, and I'm going to say almost all, so 90 some percent almost 100% of lawn fertilizer services in Minnesota, even if they claim to be organic based or natural based. There are things in that food that they're, or quote unquote food, that they're putting down on the grass that is harming the soil every time they put it in. Urea is very damaging, and it does a few things to the soil. When you apply it, urea, it kills off microbiome in the soil, so that part goes away. It is not a hospitable place for earthworms, so they go away, and the soil hardens and turns into dirt. Okay, so now you have dirt underneath of this urea treated grass. The dirt gets hard and compacted, and so now the roots of the grass plant don't have anywhere to go other than sideways, and they kind of wrap themselves up into each other. So you get this mat of roots. There's no strength there. The only thing that's making that grass green is the water and the urea, and then I'll talk about another ingredient coming up here. The urea is a nitrogen boost, so it's like meth for your grass. And the grass feels really good for a second, turns green, and you got water to go with it, so you keep this lush-looking quasi grass. It's not real; it's fake, in my opinion, because it's not a healthy plant in a healthy environment. So it's green, it's alive, it's using the water, and it's using the nitrogen out of the urea. There's also a longer-term nitrogen source. It's called ammoniacal nitrogen. Now, most sources of animal or ammoniacal nitrogen, most places that it comes from, are very toxic. They're from chemical byproducts, manufacturing, even places like fire extinguisher, fire retardant materials. Their byproducts contain nitrogen. So these ammoniacal nitrogens, they don't work right away. These are a long-term breakdown. So you put them in the ground, you spray them, and then it takes a while for them to turn into something that produces nitrogen. It's an ammoniated product. So ammonia is toxic in most cases. It's certainly, in a large scale, bad for people. That's a gas that comes from another process. So that's toxic to the ground. That kills microbial life. Again, kills the soil, turns it into dirt. And then if you look at the ingredients lists of these products that are applied by the professionals, there are sections in the nitrogen source that says other ingredients or other sources of nitrogen. That's an ingenious way that the label tells you it's got nitrogen, but they don't have to tell you what's exactly in those other sources, and they can be absolute poisons, which they are. If you drank this stuff, you'd be so sick. And then usually it's phosphorus free, so that's great, because chemical sources of phosphorus are just horrible. They hurt the environment. And then you got your potassium, your potash at the end of that NPK. And these are also sourced from synthetic byproducts. So nothing natural is in any of these lawn foods. They are simply a drug for your yard that gives you that quick green up and makes you think, I've got a healthy lawn. A green lawn does not mean it's a healthy lawn. So don't be fooled by anybody telling you that the greener your grass is, the healthier your lawn is. That is a farce. So now we've killed the microbiome in our soil. We have destroyed the activity that keeps it soil, and it has now become dirt. Now, there are some amazing things that grow in nature that will fight tooth and nails against this situation that has presented itself in your yard. Your soil is now dirt. What are some things that are still down there that are trying really hard to fix this? Your weeds. So all of these weeds that everybody hates, they're actually working really hard now because you've allowed someone to come in and wreck your soil, turn it into dirt, and now the last line of defense that the earth has is to start making changes in that soil or that dirt to turn it back into soil. So that's what your crabgrass, that's what your plantain, clover, dandelions, even some of the thistle and things like that. All of these crazy plants that start popping up that drive you nuts, they're actually trying to fix the damage that was done with the chemicals that were sprayed. Now, an interesting thing is that urea, that nitrogen source, it actually feeds weeds. So weeds will take urea because they're so strong and powerful, and they'll eat that urea and turn it into food value for themselves and push even harder through the soil so that they can try to fix the imbalance. So that's great. What a wonderful design in these weeds. But you hate weeds, remember? So the lawn service that comes in, they also put down pre-emergence in the spring, crabgrass preventer. They put down a weed and feed product midsummer. So they know, the manufacturers know what urea does. They know that urea feeds the weeds. They also know that you hate the weeds. So they made another product that kills weeds. But really it doesn't kill the weeds because you're only knocking the top out of the weeds. They don't want it to kill the weeds. They want this to be a regular deal so that you continue to pay them or the services, and then the services continue to purchase weed killers, weed prevention, weed control products. So it's a well-designed plan to keep you coming back, and all the while your yard is so sick and broken under the surface of that artificially quote-unquote healthy grass. Now the other thing that lives under that grass, besides these weeds that are continually trying to come back, are the roots of your trees. So your trees don't have a choice. You are forcing poison on them, and that's where they eat, is just below that dirt. And they're trying so hard to make it through each summer, just to live their day each day, and they have to pull in whatever water they can get, and that water happens to be full of toxic chemicals from your lawn care company's applications, and usually it's once a month. So they're really getting hammered each month throughout the growing season in the summertime. So this brings on weakness in the tree, because if you kill roots, that's all the tree has to build itself up each year is new roots. That's what a tree wants to do, is always make new roots, new roots, new roots. And then as a result, you get new leaves, healthy tree, beautiful canopy, and the tree survives each year. When you kill the roots with chemicals, the tree automatically becomes weak and is in a constant defense mode. It goes backwards all year long, and then the tree develops diseases. The tree develops dieback. The tree is more attractive to predator insects. And so, that's a horrible, horrible way for a tree to live. And all the while, your lawn company is continuing to come in and try to make sure that grass is green and those weeds are gone. And people look at their trees, and their leaves are smaller. They don't have as shiny a color. The pine trees turn lime green right after the application of the lawn products. So this tells you that the tree doesn't like what's being applied to the grass. It's very bad for trees. Not to mention all of the runoff that goes into your lake, and the poisoning that goes into the fish and the wildlife, and then the tree, the aquatic, the lake's aquatic plants, they are supposed to clean the water. So when you dirty the water, we have more weeds in response to that. So it's not just a problem in your soil in your yard. You're pushing this problem right out into the lakes. And you imagine there's some of these lakes have got 5,000-6,000 homes on them, And let's just say 2/3 of those homes have manicured, chemically treated yards. That's a lot of chemicals going into the lake each summer. And those chemicals don't go anywhere. They stay in that water. So that, again, affects the aquatic plant life, the fish. You, if you're fishing and you're eating the fish, they've got these chemicals in them too. Don't even get me started on the health problems that people experience from these chemicals. What about the products that you buy at the store, if you like to do it yourself, versus the products that are applied by a service? Well, I can tell you, as a person who used to go to the pesticide applicators training school with the state of Minnesota, with the university, even though we didn't spray poisons, for a time there, we went to the classes to be licensed just in the state as an applicator. We chose not to spray chemicals, but we still had to go to the courses. The chemicals that they carry around in their trucks are so much more potent than you can get your hands on at the store. So it's worse than what you buy at the store. And what you buy at the store is still bad. You read the label and all the cautionary and precautionary statements. Those are dangerous products to be, handled by humans. You go onto these trucks that have these big tanks that are hanging, or that are carrying these poisons. They are so poisonous. They're so dangerous. And the applicators, they can make a decision to put on extra. So if your grass is not looking very green anymore, or you have way more weeds than you used to have, you're going to complain, obviously, to the professionals, and they're going to come in and say, well, let's turn up the volume, let's spray more product, let's put on more, more is better. If the weeds aren't dying, we got to make them die with more poisons. So that is a big problem, because now the instructions aren't being followed. The precautions that we learned in these classes were, if it's a windy day, you do not spray, because it can kill trees. If if the drift lands on a row of trees and burns all the needles of a row of spruces, guess what? You can't go back in time and fix that. There were so many things. You're not supposed to wear short sleeves. You're not supposed to wear shorts. You're supposed to have gloves, face covering, ventilators, head covering. And none of these people are following these guidelines. And if they are, it's pretty rare. But these are the poisons that are being sprayed in your yard. Do your research and you'll find out that I'm correct. You can I'm sure you can contact the University of Minnesota. You can also have your applicators give you an MSDS sheet on the products that they're spraying, so you can get the toxicity ratings of it and the danger ratings. So do that research. Let's talk about the effect on wildlife. Bees, butterflies, birds, all of these things that are so important to the ecosystem are killed so commonly. I mean, it's just all the time. Either directly, like that day in that location, or a bird picks up a dying bug that has been affected by this, and now they're ingesting these poisons into their body, and then they go back to their nest or into the woods, get sick, and die somewhere else. Very, very bad stuff. Your pets. If you go to DeblenTheTurfDoctor.com, we've got a couple of articles on there about the effect of lawn chemicals to your dogs. It's one of the leading causes of cancer in dogs. The very poisons that are being sprayed monthly on your property. And the little sign that says, no children or pets walking on your lawn until it's dry, that is actually a misdirection, because those chemicals don't break down with water. So they sit there, and then they're reactivated every time the irrigation comes on. So technically they're never gone. And your kids and pets should never run around out there in that grass. So check out DeblenTheTurfDoctor.com and you'll see some pretty interesting articles that we've referenced with data from different studies about these horrible chemicals. Okay, so all of that negative stuff aside, because of the problems caused to trees by lawn chemicals, Deblen, the tree doctor, made it our mission to figure out a better, a healthier way to keep your lawns beautiful and green without poisons. And we have done it. It is fantastic. And maybe not everybody cares about this, but those that are looking for something different and won't stand for the poisons being sprayed in their yard, Deblen has the answer. And it works. It's beautiful. And we've made it so that you don't have to spend any more than you would be spending with the chemical services with our natural service. Now, we don't spray weed killers. We don't kill anything. If you kill something in nature, there's always a bad side effect. So we don't have anything to do with that. As I mentioned, these weeds that are underneath of that dirt trying to do their job, they are all actually producers of certain components in nature that balance the pH. So, for instance, dandelions are calcium pumps. I call them a calcium pump. When you have that time of year where the dandelions pop up, they are there for a reason. The soil is low on calcium. So their job is get up there and bring the calcium up. And they're blossoming, they're blooming, they're moving calcium into the soil. And once they're done, the calcium is balanced. Now, if you keep killing them back with weed killer, the calcium imbalance isn't fixed. So that dandelion root is just going to get stronger underground, and it's going to push harder next year. And if you've noticed, weed control products are not working very well anymore. So that's a big deal. It's also scary because it means the chemical companies are going back to the laboratories this winter and are going to try to come up with something even more toxic. But back to the calcium pump. Just like dandelions produce something, every other weed in nature makes something or does something for your soil. Some are simply soil stabilizers. Some grow really well in compacted soil, and the reason they're doing that is to hold that soil together to prevent flooding and runoff and damage when no grass is growing, but maybe these weeds come up in their place. They hold the soil together. But overall, all of them do something. But the reason they're doing it is because there's lack of balance in your grass, in your yard. So what Deblen does is, just like we take care of trees naturally by balancing the root system in the tree so that it has everything it needs, we do the very same thing with your lawn. We revitalize, we rebuild, we rejuvenate that dirt under the grass and turn it back into soil. And if we can turn it back into soil, that grass will get thicker, greener, stronger in its roots. So the roots will go down. Remember, we want them to go down. We don't want them to go sideways sitting on compacted soil or dirt. The soil softens. We invite microbe activity back in. We invite earthworms back in. The soil becomes robust and healthy again. Your grass gets super duper thick, resilient. It can handle irrigation hiccups. Might go brown, but then as soon as you start irrigating again, it turns back green again because those roots were healthy, dormant roots. And the other thing that happens is you eventually, when you feed the soil and you keep it balanced, you actually are balancing out weeds. The weeds are not necessary anymore, or if they are, it's very small amounts. This takes a few seasons. So if you're willing to be patient, and stop taking part in the poisoning of the earth and the lake. And these are important things to you. It's well worth it. And you get green grass so fast with our system. It's so thick and lush and really green. You want truly green grass? We've got truly green grass with our program, and we do it naturally. So call me, 218-839-5319 if you're in the Brainerd Lakes area, Park Rapids area, Nisswa, Cross Lake, and you want to make a change for the better for your yard and your environment and your family and your pets, we've got the answer, and we're excited to talk to you about it, show you, and have you experience a really healthy lawn, and you're going to feel so much better about it. No more worries about walking out barefooted in that grass. We want you to walk barefooted in your lawn because that's healthy too. So have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this information, and we'll have more Deblen the Turf Doctor videos in the future.